Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that affects pretty much everyone, creating a monthly budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think of it less like a chore and more like, your personal roadmap, a way to get financial control, maybe dial down some of that money stress.
Definitely reduce stress.
And actually start moving towards those goals, the ones that sometimes feel a bit out of reach. The side-by-side article we've been digging into really captures this well.
It does. It talks about taking charge, especially with all the financial uncertainty around, and really getting a proper handle on your money.
Right. And for this deep dive, we've tried to pull out the really core insights from that piece.
Yeah, distill it down to the most important, actionable steps for you. The idea is to give you a solid framework for building a budget that actually fits your life without making you feel overwhelming.
Exactly. Because you're probably looking for knowledge you can grasp quickly, but that's also, thorough. And get this. A 2024 survey found that something like 60% of Americans are just flying without a financial plan. No budget.
Wow, 60%. That's high.
And maybe not surprisingly, 65% say they feel stressed about their finances. But here's the kicker. People who do budget, they consistently report lower stress and higher savings rates. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It just highlights how being proactive, even just a little bit, with your finances can genuinely impact your well-being. Okay, let's get started.
Let's do it.
We need to lay the groundwork first, right?
Okay.
Understanding your current financial landscape.
Okay, so where's the logical starting point for figuring all that out?
It really has to begin with your income, getting a crystal clear understanding of it.
Right, the money coming in.
Exactly.
Yep.
And not just your main paycheck, if you have one.
Yeah.
It's the total monthly income from all your reliable sources.
All of them. Like side jobs, too.
Yep. Salary, wages, any side hustles, maybe passive income like interest, other sources like alimony or child support, if that applies. The side-by-side article had a good tip here.
Oh, yeah.
If your income varies quite a bit month to month, calculate an average over maybe the last 6 months. Or even safer, just use your lowest recent month's income. That gives you a conservative baseline for your budget.
Okay, that makes sense. Better to aim low and have extra than come up short.
Precisely.
So what's the next piece of this financial picture?
Tracking your expenses. This is where you get that unfiltered look at where the money's actually going.
The moment of truth?
Kind of.
Yeah.
The article suggests really digging into your bank statements, your credit card bills, maybe even digital receipts you save. Look back over the last, say, 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
And the goal is to categorize everything. You've got your fixed expenses, rent, mortgage, insurance, the stuff that's mostly the same each month.
Got it.
Then variable ones, groceries, gas, entertainment, things that fluctuate. And don't forget those irregular expenses.
Like birthday gifts or car repairs.
Exactly. Those pop up less often, but can blow up a budget if you haven't planned for them. And of course, any debt payments you're making regularly.
That sounds like maybe one of those tasks people put off, but it's probably super revealing.
Oh, absolutely. And you might genuinely be surprised. The piece mentioned a 2023 Ramsey Solutions study. It found that 80%, huge number of people who actually tracked their spending, found they were overspending somewhere, often dining out or maybe those sneaky subscriptions.
Guilty as charged on the subscription sometimes.
We all are. But tools can help. Things like Mint, YNA, or honestly, even just a basic spreadsheet can make that tracking process way easier.
Okay, so we've got income in, expenses out. What else do we need to understand our basic financial situation?
The next step is calculating your net worth.
Net worth, okay. Sounds a bit formal.
It can feel that way, but it's essentially just a snapshot. Your financial health at one point in time, you take everything you own, your assets, like savings, investments, maybe your home's value, and you subtract everything you owe your liabilities, like loans, credit card debt. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth.
Okay.
And knowing that number, even if it feels a bit abstract, gives really important context for your budget. It helps you see the bigger picture, maybe prioritize paying down debt faster, or focus on building up that emergency fund we'll talk about.
So it's like taking a quick financial inventory check.
Exactly that. And the final piece of laying this foundation, setting clear financial goals.
Right, knowing why you're budgeting.
Precisely. The side-by-side article really hammered this home. A budget without goals is kind of like driving without knowing where you're going.
Makes sense.
So think short-term goals. Maybe that initial $1,000 emergency fund, or paying off a small, annoying debt.
Okay.
Medium term.
Yeah.
Saving for down payment on a car, maybe a vacation. And long term, retirement. buying a house, the big stuff.
And actually writing them down helps.
Immensely.
Yeah.
Keep them visible. It's a motivator. What I really liked is how the article framed budgeting not as being restrictive, but as a tool that actually empowers you to reach those dreams.
Yeah.
It shifts the whole perspective.
I like that way of thinking about it. It's not about what you can't have. It's about planning for what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay, so we understand the inputs, the outputs, our general standing, and our destination. How do we actually, design the budget itself? Are there different methods?
Oh, absolutely. And this is important. There's no single right way.
Yeah.
Just like, most things in life, there isn't a one-size-fits-all budget.
Okay.
The real key is finding a method that clicks with you, your personality, your lifestyle, how complex your finances are.
Right. So let's maybe explore some of the main options people use.
Let's do it. Probably one of the most popular, especially for beginners, because it's quite straightforward, is the 50-30-20 rule.
Okay, 50-30-20. Heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a simple framework.
Yeah.
You take your after-tax income, your take-home pay, and you allocate it. 50% goes towards your needs. These are essentials, housing, utilities, transport, basic groceries.
Half for needs. Got it.
Then 30% is for wants. This is the non-essential stuff, dining out, hobbies, entertainment, travel, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And the final 20%, that's directed towards savings and debt repayment, building that emergency fund, retirement contributions, paying extra on loans.
So 50 needs, 30 wants, 20 savings debt.
Exactly. The article gave a simple example. If your take-home is $4,000 a month, that's $2,000 for needs, $1,200 for wants, and $800 for savings and debt. Its simplicity is its strength. Really accessible.
That does sound pretty easy to wrap your head around, actually. What's another common approach?
Another really popular one, especially among people who like detail, is zero-based budgeting.
Zero-based. Okay.
The core idea here, and you might know the software YNB. You need a budget. They're big on this.
Yeah, I've heard of YNA.
Right. So the principle is every single dollar you earn gets assigned a specific job. Income minus expenses equals zero.
Every dollar.
Every dollar. You list all your income, then you proactively assign every bit of it to different spending categories or savings goals or debt payments until there's nothing left unassigned. The side-by-side piece had a great little case study, Sarah, a teacher. She paid off $10,000 in credit card debt in just 18 months using this method.
Wow, 10 grand in 18 months. That's impressive.
It really is. And it shows how powerful that act of consciously assigning every dollar can be. It forces you to be intentional.
I can see how that level of detail would keep you super accountable. Okay, what else is out there? Any other styles?
Yeah, there's the envelope system. This is a bit more old school, often cash-based.
Like actual envelopes with cash.
Traditionally, yes. You decide your spending limit for different categories, groceries, entertainment, clothes, whatever. You withdraw that amount in cash, put it in labeled envelopes.
And when the envelope's empty?
That's it. No more spending in that category for the month. Yeah. It's very visual, really helps control overspending, especially impulse buys.
I can see that working, though maybe a bit less convenient now with everything being digital.
True. But the article did mention there are digital versions now, apps like Good Budget, that try to replicate that same principle without the physical cash.
Ah, okay.
And then there's also the Pay Yourself First budget.
Pay yourself first.
Yeah, the focus here is prioritizing savings and investments right off the bat. You decide on a percentage, say 10% or 20% of your income, and that amount gets automatically transferred to savings or investments as soon as you get paid, before you even touch it for bills or spending.
So savings comes first, then you figure out the rest.
Exactly. The rest of your income covers living expenses and discretionary stuff. It really forces you to prioritize building long-term wealth.
It's fascinating how different these methods are. How does someone listening even start to figure out which one fits them best?
That's a great question. And the article wisely suggests really thinking about your own situation. What's your lifestyle like? How stable or variable is your income? What are your main financial goals right now?
So self-reflection first.
Definitely. That side-by-side poll they mentioned was interesting too. It found about 45% of their readers like the simplicity of 50-30-20.
Okay.
While maybe 30% preferred the detailed control of zero-based.
So a mix.
Yeah. And the big takeaway is, it's okay to experiment. Try one method for a month or two. If it doesn't feel right, try another. You might even end up combining elements from different approaches to create something that's uniquely yours.
That's good advice. Don't be afraid to tweak it. Okay, so let's say we've picked a method, we've designed our budget plan. Now for the hard part, right? Making it actually work day to day. What are some practical strategies?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Moving from theory to practice. And one hugely powerful strategy is automation.
Automating finances.
As much as you comfortably can, yes. Set up direct deposit so part of your paycheck goes straight to savings or investments before it lands in your main checking account where you might spend it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Kind of. And automate bill payments for fixed expenses, rent, mortgage, loans, utilities. It just reduces the mental load and the chance of missing something.
Makes sense.
The side-by-side piece even cited a 2025 NerdWallet report saying something like 70% of people who automate savings end up saving at least 10% more. It really works.
Wow, 70% saving 10% more just by automating. That's significant.
Yeah.
Okay, what other practical steps?
Another key is tracking your spending, ideally in close to real time.
Keeping an eye on it constantly.
Well, maybe not constantly, but regularly. Luckily, there are tons of great apps for this. Now, YN, Mint, Pocket Guard, lots of options.
Right, we mentioned some earlier.
They connect to your accounts, show you transactions almost immediately, help you categorize. Many let you set spending alerts too, so you know if you're getting close to your limit in, say, your eating out category.
That sounds helpful.
Definitely. But even if you don't use an app, just making a habit of reviewing your spending once a week helps you catch things early and adjust if needed.
Okay, good habit. But what about those, curveballs, unexpected expenses that just pop up and wreck the plan?
Ah, yes. That brings us to the emergency fund. This is absolutely critical, non-negotiable, really.
The safety net.
Exactly. The standard advice is aiming for 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses, saved in an account that's easy to access, liquid cash.
3 to 6 months. Okay.
The article shared a relatable story about a reader, John. His car broke down unexpectedly. Big repair bill.
Oh, nightmare scenario.
Totally. But because he had his emergency fund, it was stressful, sure, but not a crisis. He didn't have to go into debt to fix the car. That fund was his lifesaver.
That really drives home why it's so crucial. Okay, so automation, real-time tracking, emergency fund. What's the last piece for making a budget stick?
Regular review and adjustment. This is super important. Your budget isn't a set it and forget it thing.
Right, it needs to evolve.
It has to be a living document. Life changes. So at the end of each month, take a little time. Look back. How did you do? Celebrate the wins, stayed under budget here, hit a savings goal there.
Okay.
And be honest about where you maybe went over. Why did that happen? Was it a one-off? Or do you need to adjust that category's limit for next month? Maybe you need more for groceries now or less for entertainment.
So constant learning and tweaking.
Exactly. And obviously major life changes, new job, income change, new baby, those require a bigger revisit of the whole budget.
Got it. And you mentioned tools earlier. Can we quickly recap some of the main tech options people might use?
Sure. So YNA, as we said, great for zero-based budgeting, really good goal tracking. Mint is super popular. It's free.
Yeah.
Very user-friendly for just tracking and categorizing everything in one place.
Okay.
Pocket Guard focuses more on telling you what's safe to spend right now after bills and savings are accounted for.
The in your pocket number?
Kind of, yeah. Then you've got spreadsheets, Google Sheets, Excel for total customization if you like that level of control. And don't forget your own bank. Many banks and credit unions have decent budgeting tools built right into their apps now.
Good point.
And the article also mentioned this trend towards AI-powered apps like Clio. They're starting to offer more like predictive insights based on your habits, trying to help you spot potential overspending before it happens.
Interesting. AI getting into budgeting too. Okay, so even with the best plan and tools, life happens, people hit roadblocks. What are some common challenges with budgeting and, crucially, how do we overcome them?
Yeah, challenges are inevitable. One big one, especially for freelancers or people on commission, is irregular income. It makes planning harder.
Right, if you don't know exactly what's coming in.
Exactly. The article suggested a few things. One, like we mentioned earlier, base your budget on your lowest likely monthly income. Build in that safety margin. Another good idea is a buffer account. When you have a high-income month, stash the extra cash in that separate account. Then, in leaner months, you can draw from the buffer to smooth things out.
Like your own personal income stabilizer.
Pretty much. And obviously in those high-income months, be extra aggressive with saving and paying down debt to build that buffer faster.
Makes sense. What about just plain old overspending? That temptation seems universal.
Oh, it absolutely is. The article had some good practical tips here. One is the 24-hour rule.
The 24-hour rule, yeah.
If you get the urge to buy something non-essential, especially if it's a bigger purchase, force yourself to wait 24 hours. Often, that cooling off period makes the impulse fade.
I should try that.
It works. Another simple one. Unsubscribe from tempting marketing emails or unfollow social media accounts that trigger impulse buys. Cut off the temptation at the source. And, of course, setting those clear category limits helps. Maybe even using cash or a debit card rather than a credit card for areas where you tend to overspend. It just feels more real when the money physically leaves your hand or your account balance drops immediately.
Right, that physical connection. Okay, what about motivation? Sometimes budgeting can just feel restrictive or boring. How do you stay engaged?
That's a really common feeling.
Yeah.
Totally valid. One thing the article recommended is actively visualizing your goals. Why are you doing this?
Keep your eye on the prize.
Exactly. Maybe make a vision board, put up pictures of that vacation you're saving for or the debt-free life you want, and celebrate the small wins.
Like hitting a mini goal.
Yeah. Paid off a small debt.
Okay.
Reached $500 in your emergency fund. Acknowledge it. Reward yourself in a small, budget-friendly way. And don't underestimate community.
Like talking to others.
Yeah, the side-by-side piece mentioned their financial forums. Connecting with others on the same journey, sharing tips, getting encouragement that can make a huge difference. And on that restrictive point, the article made a great case that budgeting is really about intentionality, not deprivation. And a practical tip, build fun money right into your budget. A category for guilt-free spending on whatever you enjoy. That helps combat the feeling of restriction.
Yeah, I like that planned fun money. Okay, another excuse I hear, or maybe feel myself sometimes, is that budgeting just takes too much time.
Yeah, that's a common pushback. And look, there's an initial setup effort, no doubt about it. You have to gather the info, choose a method, set it up.
Right.
But the article stressed that once your system is running, especially if you use apps and automation, it often takes just an hour or two a month for review and adjustments.
An hour or two a month doesn't sound too bad when you put it like that.
It's really a pretty small investment for the peace of mind and control you gain. They even shared another case study, Lisa, a nurse. She paid off $20,000 in debt.
Ow. How?
Diligent, zero-based budgeting, making conscious choices, cutting back where she could. Her story just shows, yeah, it takes effort, but the payoff can be absolutely massive, life-changing even.
That's really inspiring. Okay, so we know budgets need to be flexible. Life throws curveballs.
Yeah.
How do we adapt our budget when those big life events or even economic shifts hit?
Yeah, flexibility is probably the most underrated part of budgeting. It has to adapt. So take job changes.
Okay, new job, lost job.
Right. Either way, you need to update your budget immediately. Adjust for the new income level. Factor in any new expenses, like maybe a longer commute or different work clothes. If you face unemployment, that's when you lean hard on that emergency fund and ruthlessly prioritize essential spending.
Makes sense. What about big personal changes, like getting married or having kids?
Huge financial shifts. When you get married, the key is communication. Open, honest talks about money goals, habits, debts, everything. Then you work together to merge finances, create a joint budget, plan for shared goals.
Teamwork.
Absolutely. And remember that side-by-side survey finding. 75% of couples who budget together report strong relationships. It forces you onto the same page.
That's a powerful statistic.
It really is. And kids, well, they bring joy. And a whole new list of expenses, diapers, childcare, eventually education savings. Your budget definitely needs a major overhaul to accommodate those new priorities.
For sure. Okay, what about stuff outside our control, like the economy takes a nosedive or inflation spikes like it did recently?
Yeah, those broader economic shifts definitely impact us. The article mentioned that even with inflation potentially cooling a bit in 2025, costs might still feel high.
So what can you do in your budget?
Get tactical. Review those subscriptions again, anything you can cut. Be a smarter shopper, look for deals, maybe buy some things in bulk, try store brands. It might also be a time to actively look for ways to boost income, a side hustle, asking for a raise, maybe some upskilling.
Proactive steps.
Exactly, taking control where you can.
And thinking much further ahead. What about retirement? How does budgeting change then?
Retirement is a big transition. You shift from accumulating wealth to distributing it carefully. Your budget needs to reflect your new income sources, Social Security, pensions, investment withdrawal.
Fixed income mostly.
Often, yeah. And you absolutely have to plan carefully for healthcare costs, which can be a major expense in retirement. Honestly, working with a financial planner at this stage can be really valuable to create a sustainable spending plan.
Good advice. So listening to all this, it feels like the main theme, the overarching principle for successful budgeting is what?
It really comes down to staying flexible and adaptable. The side-by-side article hit this hard. Regular check-ins are key, maybe monthly for small tweaks, quarterly for a bigger review.
Keep looking at it.
Yes. And building in a miscellaneous or contingency category, maybe 5%, 10% of your income, that gives you a buffer for those truly random things that pop up.
Yeah.
There's a great quote in the article.
Yeah.
A budget isn't set in stone. It's a living tool that grows with you. I think that sums it up perfectly. That's the mindset.
That's really well put. Okay, so to kind of wrap things up, bring it all together, what's the core message you want people to take away from our deep dive today?
I think ultimately it's that creating and using a monthly budget is really a journey. It's a journey towards getting more clarity about your money, building a stronger sense of financial security, and honestly unlocking more freedom in your life.
Freedom, not restriction.
Exactly. It's about taking the wheel, directing your resources, your money, in a way that actually lines up with what you value, what your priorities are, what you want long term.
And like you said, it's not about deprivation. It's about being conscious, being intentional with your choices.
Perfectly said. It's about empowering yourself to build the life you want by making informed decisions about how you spend, save, and invest your money.
Okay. So for someone listening right now, maybe feeling inspired, maybe a little intimidated, but ready to take that first step, what's your number one piece of advice?
Just start. Start today. Seriously. Don't aim for the perfect, super detailed budget right out of the gate. That can be paralyzing. Even just starting with something simple, like that 50-30-20 rule, and just beginning to track where your money is actually going. That first step is huge. It's often the hardest, but it's the most important one.
That's fantastic advice. Just begin. Okay, and on that note, here's a final thought for you, our listener, inspired directly by the Side-by-Side article. What's one specific financial goal, could be big, could be small? What's one goal you'll commit to tackling with your new budget this month?
That's a great focusing question.
Yeah, something to really chew on.
And as you get started on this budgeting journey, remember some of those follow-up questions the source material brought up are worth thinking about down the line too. Things like, how can you use your budget to pay off debt faster? What are the best apps for your specific goals? How do you talk about this stuff, teach budgeting, to your kids or your partner?
Right. More to explore.
Exactly. It's all part of that ongoing journey towards mastering your money.